All right. Get started here in just a second now that we have the stream live. I will tell you guys in a minute how you can get on the list for a reading. It's a pretty simple process. So, alrighty. All right, we'll be getting started here in just a second, guys. I'm going to let people start to join the live stream before we kick off for the day. Oh, good to see you guys. So tell me as you're coming in, where are you guys coming from? I always like to see what part of the world our audience is from. Some people saying good morning. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Christelle from Europe. That's great. I'm glad you could attend. That's awesome. Mindy from Salem, Utah. Yeah, sure. We can talk about what horary readings are. That would be great. Joining me today, by the way, is my colleague and friend, Alex. Hey, Alex.
My esteemed colleague from the land of Massachusetts.
It's good to see you, man. I'm glad we could be here together again.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Mars is moving into conjunct my sun, and I've had 2 cups of caffeine, so God help you.
Yeah, it's such a funny like moon. It's like moon conjoining Pluto, so this should be real deep. I'm sure we're gonna hear some there'll probably be a few TMI moments today.
It's all good. Oh, Sun squaring Neptune too, so that always.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We won't make any sense, and we'll say things we ought not to say. Right?
Buckle up, everyone.
Yeah, let's see where everyone's coming from. Okay. Gosh. All right. Norman, Oklahoma.
Cool.
All right. Alabama, person, turquoise, waving. India, Akshat from India. Creative Concepts with Kigali. I'm not sure how you say that. I'm so sorry. South Africa. That's awesome. Tracy from Seattle. Let's see who else is here with us. I'm scrolling down. Mad Hippies Life. That sounds like fun. Good morning from Colorado. Catherine here from southeastern Massachusetts. What part of Massachusetts are you from?
Neba.
Aren't you like a Boston guy?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Boston.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Czech Republic, amazing. Somerset, England.
Oh, cool.
Gil from Manchester. We have the Netherlands.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so cool to see.
This is so cool.
I know, right? Always gets me pretty excited. So I was recording this morning. I was recording a video that'll air next week on breaking down all of the different facets of Mercury's retrograde, so that we can further contextualize the Mercury cazimi and Capricorn that's coming on the solstice. And moon's on Pluto, right? And I had we call them stink bugs. Do you know what those are?
Are they like the long bugs like this?
No, they're really small and they're kind of compact. And if you ever smush them, they smell really bad.
Oh,
that's what
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Well, anyway, I thought it was kind of comical because I was describing the death and rebirth of Mercury, and this like Kafka-esque little beetle crawled across my foot, and I was like, ah, like in the middle of the recording. I got my foot wrapped up in the cord. Anyway, it was funny.
Oh man.
Let's see. Okay, who do we have? Orla from Long Island.
Long Island.
From Scotland.
One of my favorite cities. Love it.
Cloudy, Minnesota. Good morning from Carla. Yes, it is. It's overcast this morning. there's some good light coming in, but like, yeah, it's not, it's a little sad outside. Although we don't have any snow. I'm like, come on, Minnesota. We always have snow. This year it's like, nope. I believe that's because of like, it's funny. Every year it's like, it's El Nino. What I never understand it. I'm like, well, how could it be that some tropical winds from out in the ocean affect my winter? Go home. I don't
like the best is like people from Minnesota laugh at us in the Northeast when we complain about our winters. They're like, that's cute.
You guys do get like really big, like you get the nor'easters. Those are
we get the nor'easters, yeah, but usually because of the ocean, it doesn't get super cold for a long period of time. Like I'm crossing my fingers for that, but yeah. We'll get a nor'easter backs in off the ocean.
Wow.
Memphis.
Greetings from Tel Aviv. Wow. Amazing.
Shalom, manishma.
Let's see. There's someone from Iowa. Yeah, this is cool. All right. I'm going to do an official rundown and then we're going to start and we'll tell you why we're here and what the heck we're going to do today. So we will be right back after this brief little countdown to let a few more people gather in and then we'll officially start. All right. Well, officially welcome in everybody. This is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. I'm joined with my friend Alex Amorosi. You guys know Alex from our monthly horoscopes. Today, we're going to be doing a few things. We are going to be taking questions that you have about astrology. We are also going to be inviting people into the studio with us to do some readings and to share stories. I'm going to tell you about all of that and how that's going to happen. But first, as you guys know, the reason that I do this at this time of year is to promote our annual Kickstarter campaign. You can find the link to the Kickstarter in two different places. One, I'm putting it in the streaming chat, and I will continue to do so throughout the stream today. And then two, if you go over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com, and you click on the top of the menu, or if you're on a cell phone, it would be in the menu options, but I'm going to take you over there right now. Here you go. So if you go over to nightlightastrology.com and you click on the 2024 Kickstarter link, that will take you over to the Kickstarter. Right now, we are at 562 backers, which means we have, I think, approximately 1,216 more that we need to try to gather by New Year's Eve. I just did some handy work on my little calculator. Let me just double check with math. 1,777 backers minus 562 that we've already gotten, 1,215 backers that we still need to get by New Year's. We're a little over halfway to our base funding goal, which essentially keeps the light on. It's all or nothing funding, so we have to reach that base goal to make everything happen. And then beyond that, we have some really exciting stretch goals like the starting of our affordable reading service, which is going to be a place that allows Nightlight graduates to get experience reading charts while it provides very affordable price points for people who otherwise couldn't afford an astrology reading. That service is going to depend on us meeting our stretch goals, which will happen if we get to 1,777 backers. If you have not already joined in the Kickstarter, we would really appreciate your help. When you go over there, there are a bunch of rewards that you can receive for your donation, including different kinds of readings. For example, one of the rewards you can choose when you pledge to support the channel is a video of your rising sign horoscope for the entire year of 2024. Alex and I have been recording those. We break down all the major transits for every one of the 12 rising or sun signs to tell you what kinds of things are coming in 2024. You can also pick up some horary readings. There's an individualized biggest transit of the year ahead reading, which you've been seeing me doing on this channel. And then there's also like my new book is there. And probably the best thing that we have are all of our courses. So if you want to study astrology now or at any point in the future, you can pick up 50% off any of our online courses when you donate and support the Kickstarter. And of course, the savings on those programs goes up when you bundle and get a class pass. 2, 3, 4 class passes save you exponentially more money. We have a year 1, a year 2, and a year 3 program that are all about preparing people for professional astrology practice. But many people take those courses just because they want to develop their personal interest in astrology, which I highly recommend if astrology is a big part of your life, to actually study it, get some guidance, structure, and community around you. You'll be able to take your use and love of astrology to an entirely different level of usefulness in your life. Which is really, it's really profound to have more skills to be able to look at your own chart with, to maybe even look at the charts of friends and family members, or maybe to read for other people with. So when you donate, you can pick up the class passes. They don't expire. You can go in on them with a friend. They're a great way to deepen your love of astrology while also supporting the school and all the things we do, and the content of this channel and the entire team of people that are around us. There's 11 staff members at Nightlight, and a number of those are absolutely vital. Some of them are more vital for our programs, but a number of them are vital so that I can take 3 to 4 hours every single day to go through my process of creating content 5 days a week, year round. So at any rate, we really appreciate everyone who's already pitched in, to the 562 of you. We still have a long ways to go. We still need 1,215 beautiful souls to pitch in and help us get to our goal by New Year's Eve. We really appreciate it, again, if you take time during this live stream to pitch in. $1, $5, everything helps. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the offerings that we provide, you can always email us, which is info@nightlightastrology.com. I'll put that into the chat box as well. So that being said, let's see here. Here's the instructions now for, oh, thank you, Whitney, so much. As a current first-year student, I can attest to the incredible quality of the program. It has enriched my life so much, and I now can't wait to continue my studies. Thank you, Whitney. We so appreciate that. We pour a lot of heart and soul into not only obviously the content of this channel, but also all of our programs, which are meant to really help people take astrology forward in their life as something that it's like becoming fluent in a language that it helps you navigate everyday life for the rest of your life. So we find that the program is very valuable for people, whether you want to be a professional astrologer or not. So, yeah, if you guys, we're going to start off with some questions that you guys have. Any questions about astrology? We're going to start with a little Q&A. Alex and I will field your questions, and then we're going to invite some people on to do some readings or to share stories about transits that you've experienced during 2023. I'll tell you about how to do that more in a minute. Actually, I'll do it now because it'll take a while to get people wound up. So grabbed@nightlightastrology.com is the email address. If you'd like to come on and share a story, or if you'd like to come on for a reading, email us, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. Tell us your name and make sure you leave your birth info, including time, date, and location of birth if you'd like to come on air for a reading, or if you'd like to come on air and share a story, give your name and then tell us the transit that you'd like to tell a story about. Maybe you had a Uranus to Mercury transit, or maybe you had a Pluto square your sun transit or something. What was your biggest transit of the past year? And if you'd like to come on and tell us a little bit about what you've been going through, we'd love to hear your story. So either way, email us, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com, and in a little bit, we'll bring people on to talk about it. Let's see here. So we have some people helping promote the program. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate you. Yeah, so we've had some people say, can you talk some more on the content of the Zodiacal releasing content in the Kickstarter? I've been working with the technique for 6 months now after taking your awesome first-year course. Yeah, so the Zodiacal releasing workshop that you'll find in the Kickstarter it's somewhere between 8 and 10 hours worth of advanced content on the easiest ways to use the technique, which most people really struggle with. Most people have no problem picking up the basic concept of Zodiacal releasing, which this course will also teach you how to do. So if you know nothing about it, you'll learn how to use the technique at a very basic level. But then the point of the 4 workshops that we did in about 8 to 10 hours worth of content is to say, look, here's how you take this from this very interesting technique to a very practically useful technique, which most people struggle to integrate. It's like, wow, this is fascinating. How do I actually use it? So these are like some very basic ways of effectively using Zodiacal releasing and integrating it into whether it's chart practice for fun or your own chart or people that you work with. So it's kind of like, I recognize that there was people were struggling with Zodiacal releasing. And so this workshop was a way of trying to make it simpler and more effective in its actual application. So that's what the program's about. But if you don't know anything about it, the course that you can pick up through the Kickstarter on the zodiacal releasing technique will also teach you what it is on the very most basic level if you're brand new to it. Yeah. Let's see some other questions. Thank you so much, Brian. I highly recommend the Enlightening Nightlight Astrology courses. Brian has been in almost all of our courses, I think. Yeah. Stephen also has been in our courses. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. So what questions do you guys have about astrology today? Feel free to put them in the chat box. We would be really glad to take any questions that you have about astrology. It could be about a sign, a house, a planet, an aspect. We ask that you not just say, hey, can you interpret this placement in my birth chart? Because we can't do that without really seeing the entirety of your birth chart. But you could ask, any other kinds of questions that you guys have are totally welcome. Let's see here. Can you give a basic summary of zodiacal releasing? Yes, so the basic idea behind zodiacal releasing is that...
Can you summarize tax code?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically, the zodiacal releasing is very similar to the Hindu dasha system, which is a way of breaking the life into chapters. And there are many layers of it. So on the first level of zodiacal releasing, you're looking at a technique that breaks, depending on your starting point, are you looking at, depending on what topic you're looking at, like career or health or money, you start breaking the life up into chapters through this technique. And the first level of the chapters will be very long, 12 years, 25 years, 30 years, 27 years, like that. And those chapters then have sub periods. Okay, during this 12-year-long Jupiter ruled period, the sub periods for those 12 years will break down into 30 months, 25 months, 19 months, 8 months, 15 months, ruled by different planets and hitting different points in the chart. So in that way, and then those periods will break down from months into, say, weeks, and weeks into days. And so you have a way of mapping out these timelines that combine different planetary rulers of different periods that are like nesting dolls. So you're in a 27-year Capricorn period, but then on level 2, you're in a 25-month Cancer moon period. And so you have an interaction between Cap and Cancer relative to a starting point like career. It's a really beautiful kind of, I describe it as a nesting dolls timing technique. And it looks at life in terms of chapters and sub-chapters within those chapters that revolve around different themes and planets. It's really, really beautiful to see it work out. It's like reading your life like this multidimensional book. And it's a timing technique that's usually used alongside of transits. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Edwina asks, can you talk about Pluto transits to natal nodes? What have you noticed with your clients? Yeah, that's a great question. Did you want to say anything about that, Alex, to start with?
It depends on what node is being activated, and it depends on, or if Pluto is squaring or bending the nodes, which is also interesting too. What I tend to notice is there is some aspect of the life path where you have been going, where you believe you have been going, where you saw your life going, that suddenly feels like there's this thing under the surface that has been bothering me about that for a while, and it's like an itch I haven't scratched, and all of a sudden Pluto brings a great amount of intensity to that, and it can feel like it kind of interrupts the flow of where you thought you were going, but in a way where it sort of stops you for a moment to bring something up to check if like this is where you actually want to be. I find that usually happens more often with the Pluto squaring the nodes. Pluto in the south node, shorthand for that would just be a really amazing time of release, and usually old, very entrenched, darker spaces within us. The south node I often think of as jettisoning or dematerializing things, and Pluto actually has that kind of effect too. With the north node, that can actually be really good for goals and achievement and acquiring things, but you want to watch out for Pluto being amplified by the north node in such a way where it feels like if I can only acquire the ring of power, then I shall have dominion over all of Middle Earth.
We can't help ourselves, guys.
You just can't help exactly. Elvish appears on your wedding ring, and you go, oh, shit. but it has that sort of feeling like if I can only achieve some level of total control, then I will have like peace forevermore. But on the flip side of that, it can be really wonderful for sort of like the grit that's necessary to acquire things that you really wanted. So that's how I've experienced those three major aspects of the node. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, when Pluto goes over the natal north node, expect that the ambitions signified by Rahu, and I really think of the nodes in terms of the way Indian astrologers looked at them, that Rahu or the north node is like a drum beating in the direction of what we most hunger for or desire. And by nature, this is going to get us entangled in people, places, things. This is not going off to an ashram. This is going into, it's like, it's not a day of fasting. It is a day of pursuing the burger you want to eat. That's the north node. So when Pluto goes over it, you're going to be visiting the compulsions, desires, shadows, unconscious material, the power, the Shakti, the depth, and the intensity of what you desire. And there's going to be some lessons around that. Like, your desires hopefully will align with things that are healthy and not totally destructive, right? But you may have to learn about what destructive or shadow impulses are there. And there's often a feeling of your entire life being transformed by the power of what you seek and what you desire around that one. With the south node, it's the opposite. The south node will often be about, a transformation of, well, it can go in a couple of different directions. One, Pluto over the south node can be about the same kind of power, but it's one that pulls you out of the world. For example, let's just say the south node of the moon is in your 9th house and Pluto goes over it. The likelihood is you will go to an ashram, right? But there may be like a cult leader at the ashram that you deal with, or you may be visiting the shadows or the subterranean or unconscious material associated with the desire to transcend or be released or escape from the world. So the south node impulse is not into the world like Rahu, it's out of the world like DMT blasting you out your pineal gland, or it's meditation, or it's that kind of like, I'd rather fast today, right? But it can also be the way we try to escape or evade responsibility or worldly engagement represents a kind of bypassing or escapism. And so Pluto over that south node can also show you in what ways you either need to take a step back or out or away from the world, or it will show you the problems with trying to do so rather than being engaged in the material of the world, which is just as sacred and valuable, believe it or not, as like, flying out your crown chakra and meditation. People sometimes think the opposite, that my point is to get out of here. There's been debates about the direction of the direction of the soul, downward and inward, upward and outward, right? But they're, according to a lot of traditions, at least those that I'm interested in, they're two sides of the same coin. And it's really, the nodes of the moon will always have us carrying the tension of the two. So when Pluto's going over the south node, it's really about exploring the power and the shadow of the impulse to leave or transcend the world, the world, excuse me.
Yeah, and just for people listening, if you know where your nodes are, if you have your nodes at the beginning of Aquarius and Leo, you'll start getting a Pluto transit to the nodes coming up. And if you have your nodes in the beginning of Scorpio and Taurus, you'll start getting a square from Pluto coming in. If you know your chart in that way, you'll start seeing how that coming in that way.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that question. We're going to take a couple more, and then I've got some people in the studio that are going to be coming on for a reading in a little bit. I can see you guys there. Thank you. Hang out with me for a few minutes. We'll get you on in a second. So let's see. What other question? Yes. Can you elaborate on the IC? What is it, and what conjunctions to that point might look like? Sure. So the main thing to know about the IC is that the IC is it is called the lower midheaven. The lower midheaven means it's exactly opposite the midheaven that we see above us. So it is like another midheaven, but a midheaven that is somehow in the subterranean, shady world of Hades. In that sense, there's this, a way of thinking about it would be that it represents the deepest point of night, or where the yin is at high noon rather than the yang, which is associated with the high noon of the sun in the sky at the MC. So the darkest point of night is like high noon for darkness. That's an easy way of thinking about it that is really effective symbolically too. So yin, maximal yin. Yin is substantive, right? Like it's our body, for example. The spirit is descends from the pole star at Cancer down toward the earth. At the summer solstice, the sun starts coming down. Cancer, the summer solstice sign, was called the gateway of mankind. The reason for that is that it was associated with the spirit associated with the light of the sun nearest the pole star descending down toward the earth, coming from spirit into matter, which is, of course, mediated through the body and the womb and the world, which is why Cancer, the sign of the mother, and the moon, which represented the body in the material world, rules that sign. So when you think about that, one way of associating, one of the reasons that modern astrologers associate the fourth house, or the IC, with Cancer is because it's the fourth sign in zodiacal order. And there's some interesting associations there. The sign of Cancer was not related to the IC. I want to make that clear in ancient astrology. But there's some interesting correlations, right? With the body especially, and with the foundation of things materially. So, for example, Manilius, who was a Roman poet who wrote an astrological text, it's one of the earliest that we have. He said that the IC, though less visible than the MC, was more substantive because it supported the entire nativity. So whereas the MC shows us our reputation in the world, the IC shows us the foundation of earthly support, your home, your family, the resting place. That's the psychic, emotional, and physical foundation of the entire chart. The IC as a degree represents the same thing that the whole sign fourth house would represent in a way, because as a degree, it serves to amplify the same basic images, which are of a substantive base of support, a substantive place where the yin power is most potent. Planets can join that, therefore take on this kind of foundational quality in the lifetime. If you have Mars there, for example, you'll see the charts of many people who survive and thrive in life because there's this very foundational level of strength, independence, and muscle that they have spiritually or emotionally. And the same thing, but on the other hand, a debilitated Mars at that point, or an out of sect, Mars or something like that, could mean, for example, that a person's ability to have a strong, basic, stable sense of like foundation in life has been challenged by violence in the home, right? So the IC is read in context always, and it's not associated necessarily with all the topics that the whole sign fourth house would be in ancient astrology, but has some similarities. And the basic one being that planets at that point are at the sort of psychic foundation of the chart. And that's really important for better or worse. So you have to read in context what that might mean. Having a benefic there, like Venus, is great because it kind of means that there's a base level of like ease, joy, harmony, good fortune, or even romance or love that's sort of at the base of the chart. A debilitated Venus could mean that the foundations are constantly disturbed because of challenges in relationships. So you have to read it in context. But it greatly amplifies the voice of the planet in the chart in terms of its power over the lifetime as a whole. So I hope that helps. Alex, you want to add any thoughts about the IC?
I was just saying, when I see transits to the IC, it depends on what the planet is, but I often notice that the archetype and the experience of the transit is usually very private in a lot of ways. It's something that someone is going through on a very internal level, and they tend to be more like psychological, emotional, where am I going, what am I doing type of transits, whereas the opposite, when you see conjunct the midheaven, those tend to be more public. People see them more. People are more visible to those. But I think the IC just represents to me always the most private part of the chart in a lot of ways. And then what's going on in that space too, what are the other planets that are there, aspects that are being made off, obviously makes a huge difference in the context of it.
Right. On that note, I think what we'll do is we have a bunch of people in queue now to receive some readings. And we are filled up for the day already because we've got a bunch of people who've already come in. I want to remind you guys that before we get started on this, today we are here as a way of supporting and drumming up support for the annual Kickstarter campaign. You can find the link in the live stream chat or head over to nightlightastrology.com. I'm going to take you over there one more time right now. And I just want to show you how to get over to the Kickstarter and help us reach our goal. We still need the support of over 1,200 backers by New Year's Eve. If you go to the website, nightlightastrology.com, and click on the 2024 Kickstarter, it'll take you over there where you can pledge, receive a reward, pick up one of our classes. We really appreciate the support, and thank you to everyone who's already donated. So on that note, I think what we're going to do next is we will call some people on for little mini readings. What we're going to do in this reading is we are going to look at the biggest transit for 2024 in your birth chart. Now, I have no idea who came on in which order. We're going to try to get to as many of you as we can. So I'm just going to click on some people here. Hi, Mindy.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Hey, Alex. Going great. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're good. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we're going to take a look at the biggest transit of your birth chart in 2024. We'll give you our opinion on it. And so what I need from you is your date of birth first.
May 20th, 1976.
And your time of birth.
1:31 a.m.
And the place.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay. So let me just, and I'm going to just double check before I put it up. Looks like Aquarius rising. Does that sound right?
Yep.
All right. Fantastic. We're going to put the chart up on the screen, and we're going to try to pick something out for you that we see coming in the year ahead. Can you see the chart on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So let's see here.
Oh, I see.
All right, Alex,
wow.
do you see anything coming up?
Pluto opposing Mars is a big one that I see.
That's a huge one.
Been going
the other
for a
one
long
that's coming. Uranus is also.
You got a
coming
taste
over
of that,
yeah. Look at this one.
Yeah.
So let's pair it together. We got a story that's coming up here. So Pluto's going to enter the first house, and it's going to start opposing Mars this year. At the exact same time, Uranus is going to be over Mercury, or over Venus, and squaring the moon. That's a really big deal. So first thing that comes to my mind, Alex, is and Mindy, is relationships, right? Pluto opposite Mars is often going to come up when the issues of power and power dynamics in relationships are being like excavated, right? So let's just say you're in a relationship with someone you love, but let's say they don't know how to share, or they tend to be a little dominant, or there tends to be a feeling like there's not enough room for both of us to be big or bright or something. Pluto can start to change that by making it harder to live in a dynamic where there doesn't feel like there's an equal give and take around power. That's a really big thing. Uranus on Venus will say, I want greater freedom in relationships, in love, around home, family, what the home feels like in the fourth house. Squaring the moon in the first house, it'll say, I'm seeking new ideas by means of which to live and express myself by. I'm seeking change in body and identity, especially around things like love and home and family. So when you pair those kind of home, family, love, and domestic themes with Pluto opposing Mars in the seventh, I mean, the worst thing I could think of would be like a divorce, or, some kind of big split in a relationship. If a person was single and I saw this, I would say, I wonder if you're going to start seeing a different person, or breaking a pattern, or breaking your own personal mold in dating or love. If there's a history of feeling like, oh, I'm really attracted to like Mars and Leo type of people, but maybe that's been to my detriment in some ways in the past. Maybe there's a more temperate or middle path you're going to chart out with respect to the kind of people you want to see or date or something. But it looks to me like it has to do with changing the mold of who you are, what kind of love or relationships you seek, power dynamics, and changing them somehow. Those would be my first takes. Do you want to add anything to that, Alex? And then we'll ask for your feedback, Mindy.
You know, Mindy, one thing I'm noticing too is you have Pluto right now opposing your natal Saturn and then moving into the opposition with Mars too. And that's an interesting context for that transit. It's wow. It's like, you know, with Saturn in Cancer, sometimes what I see is like there's a real desire to be very heavily protected in one's emotional self. And that's not always bad, but feeling like there's a sense of like, I want to be in the very safe, stable, emotional place. Sometimes it can feel like also there's like a sense of almost being smothered by that in some way or feeling controlled by it in some way. And as Pluto moves off of Saturn and onto Mars in the opposition, especially Saturn in Cancer to Mars in Leo, it would say to me, riffing off of kind of what Adam was saying, like, I'm here to be big and bold and assert in relationship. I'm here, you know, where I haven't been able to assert my needs, assert my vision, or assert my prominence in a relationship. I find Pluto almost opens the ground up from underneath us in an interesting way and shows us like a little space where it's like, you know, I've never let myself do that before. And one thing with Pluto and Mars you want to watch out for, I think, always is the impulsivity of it, because it can be very primally impulsive. But there's a sense of like, I really can allow myself to have a voice that is prominent in my relationships, that's noticeable, that's seen. I just find that a fascinating sequence of those two transits happening off of each other.
Yeah. You could also, like, one thing that comes to my mind, really, I'll just interject really briefly, is the thing about impulse that's important with this is that Uranus on Venus, Uranus squaring the moon, and Pluto hitting Mars all speak to the potential for an eruption of passion as well. If there is, you know, if there's not enough of, if there's not space for creative expression, sexual expression, creative expression at work or in relationships, this transit will bang the door open. And like, if you're in a relationship with someone where there's not touch and you wish there was, that's going to be hard during this transit. It'll amplify by making you feel like I'm sort of going nuts inside, you know, like I need to break out of enclosure somehow and find some connection to these primal energies. Then it becomes destructive if there's not a channel for it. Mindy, what do you think?
Yeah, this all makes sense. And actually, if I may interject a little bit from yesterday's live, I had submitted an email about a transit from last year, which was kind of fascinating. It was right when Pluto went from Capricorn to Aquarius. At the same time, transiting Mercury was combust my natal Jupiter. And at that time, I actually approached my husband and said, it's not working. It's not working this way. Things have to change. I haven't spoken my needs, and I have needs. And so it was a very like coming out of that Capricorn, you know, Pluto in Capricorn, having that break down the way that things were, and then speaking it, finally daring to speak it. And so now looking at what you're pointing out, and even looking at my upcoming solar return, knowing that Uranus is going to be right over my sun, Jupiter's going to be right there. Like, we're hitting some big stuff.
Yeah, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction will be on your natal Venus, right? So that's huge. And it are you guys still together?
Yes. Yeah. So as it went back into Aquarius or back into Capricorn, there's this like, okay, let's keep working. Let's see where we can go with this. So should be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would say that that you peeled back a layer of the onion, and the best thing you could do is just anticipate that there's probably a few more layers to go. But it's a great omen if you've been able to do that work together, because, you know, people have this misconception that these transits are automatically, you know, going to detonate the you know, like an atomic bomb is going to go off, that you're going to be divorced and all these, you know. That's not the case for many people, especially people who really do care about each other. These are periods in which some of the reasons that you were brought together as a couple include things that you're meant to work through. And how else could we need transits like these to help us bring up those moments, those times where we say, okay, there's going to be periods of harvest and like plenty, and there's going to be times of like scarcity. And when you hit a period of scarcity in terms of the connection or the bond or the resources you have as a couple, you have to reinvent yourselves. You have to, you know, transform. And so there's no reason that these transits can't be a part of that. On the other hand, the thing that I would keep in mind is, if there is resistance to going a few layers deeper, then you're going to need to pound your fist on the table again, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mars and Leo, I've got some energy there.
Let's do it.
Mars and Leo isn't subtle. Mars and Leo isn't subtle.
So,
No.
in the seventh house, right on the descendant.
Exactly.
Oh, Mindy, thank you so much for coming
Okay.
on. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Adam, while I've got you, please talk about the horary readings.
Oh, yes, that's right. You had wanted me to talk about that. What do you want to know about them?
It's something I just don't understand. And so as I'm looking at the Kickstarter, you know,
Right.
my options.
You're talking about the horary class or the readings or both?
Both.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's just see this. Like, let me just give you an example. Okay. So I'm going to put a chart up on the screen. This is just a sample chart from a class I taught. So let's just say, you see in the top left-hand corner is how it says, will I meet someone? So horary is a very specific predictive form of astrology that does not rely on the birth chart. You don't use anybody's birth chart. You can certainly use the birth chart to maybe complement or double check, like, does a transit align with the answer I'm getting in the horary? Some people do that, but you don't need the birth chart. So for example, at 4:23 p.m., December 11th, 2023, I received a question from someone saying, will I meet someone? This is like a, will I ever, meet a romantic partner type of question? Will I ever have a soulmate? Will I ever get married? Very common horary question. So what we do in horary is we use certain techniques that are like literally they date back to the Middle Ages. The medieval period of astrology was a time at which this whole branch of astrology really flourished. And we use the techniques in order to answer the question. So the chart becomes like the birth chart of a question, cast from the location of the diviner at the time they receive the question. So in this case, the ascendant is going to be given always the ruler to the person asking the question. So let's say in that case, this is Mercury, right? So they're Mercury, and see how they're located in the 7th house. We can tell exactly what's on their mind. Love. They're interested in love and relationships. The other co-signifier that they get always is the moon. The moon is always the co-signifier of the person asking the question, and it has this way of generally representing the flow of events. It's one of the main prognosticating tools that we use in horary. Now, in the meantime, when it's a woman asking about a man, typically a man will get the 7th house ruler, which in this case would be Jupiter, but also we can often assign the sun to the man, and sometimes we can also assign Venus to the woman. So we get a bunch of different planets kind of playing roles, and then we look at the context and see what's going on. Well, in this chart, what's in the process of happening? We see a new moon that is about to form on the descendant, the exact line, the cusp or entry of the 7th house. Now in horary, we use quadrant-based houses. In Hellenistic, we tend to use whole sign for natal. So they're different house systems, but and there's reasons for that. But at any rate, this isn't a person saying like, will I meet someone specific? It's just like, will I ever get married? And what do we see? Well, we see the moon hitting Mars first. They could face maybe a little adversity in the near future with respect to love and relationships. However, in the long run, after the moon passes through Mars, it forms a new moon right on the descendant. The sun and the moon joining together is a classic sign of marriage. So in this case, I said, there may be some challenges you face before you get there. Like, so maybe there's a relationship or two that are preparing you for the long-term relationship. But we do see the marriage of the sun and the moon on the cusp of the 7th house of marriage as the long-term promise, the next really big thing that the moon is doing as one of your signifiers. So this was a chart that we use to read the answer to the question. Yes, you will indeed eventually get married. There may be a few hardships along the way, but you'll get there. So that's a horary chart. They're used specifically to answer yes or no style questions. Will I meet someone? Yes or no? Yes. If I said, should I go to France? That's not a horary question. That would be more of a subjective counseling kind of question to look over symbols and discuss together, because a horary is just about, like, if you said, should I go to France? And I said, well, give me something I can give a yes or no to. If I go to France, will I lose a bunch of my money? Like if I take this vacation, will it really hurt my finances? Yes, no. If I go to France, I'm not worried about money. I just want to know if I'll actually have fun. Then I can look at that and say, yes, you'll have fun, or no, it doesn't look like you'll have a super great time, or it'll be meh in the middle. So as long as the question can get shaped into a kind of yes or no situation, then it's appropriate for horary.
Fascinating. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, you bet. It's a really interesting form of horary. We have a whole 1-year program in horary that starts every June, and then through the Kickstarter, I offer one of the readings are you can donate and you'll receive 3 horary readings to use whenever you want in the year ahead. And you can you email them to me, and then I email you the response and the explanation of how we get to the answer in the chart. So that's a cool Kickstarter offering that we have.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps others too.
Thank you, Mindy. Thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Good luck, Mindy. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Kim says, if you are considering taking a class with Adam, do it. I'm in my year 2, and these classes have enriched my life. Thank you. We so appreciate that. And we hope that other people will pitch into the Kickstarter and come study with us. What is the house system used for horary and why? I use Regiomontanus, which comes from the way that my horary, it's really just the house system that my horary teachers used. And there's reasons for that too, but it doesn't really matter. You can use any kind of quadrant-based house system for horary for the most part. Some people use whole sign too, but I think it, because the methods were mostly taught through the line of medieval astrologers that were using different quadrant-based forms of division, I think quadrant usually works best for horary.
It's helpful for those of us too who learned on whole signs to look at a different house system, because that is a really interesting exercise when you first start doing horary. I'm like, wait a second, it's just oh shit, no, it's it's another one. It's a really helpful way of like looking at a chart and a totally different point of view that you've never considered it before. It's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to bring our next guest on. Is it Shay? Do I say Shay?
Oh, hi. Yeah, it's Shay.
Shay, nice to
Shay.
meet you. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
I think you tried to get on the last time we came. I feel like I might have seen you before.
I did, but you know what happened? I forgot to click to enter in, and I did it later on. So I think that was the reason why.
Okay, well, I'm so glad we could get you on today. Yeah, let's start with what's your date of birth?
So it's 11th of the 2nd, so 11th of February, 1995.
And the time?
Time is 1:32 a.m. and in Nottingham, UK.
Let's see. I have you as Scorpio rising. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Let's see here. I'm going to put it up on the screen. And all right, tell me if you can see the chart on the screen.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, fantastic. Well, you're just coming out of the reversed nodal return in your 1st and 7th houses. Did you experience over the past couple of years, did you experience any significant changes around relationships or your sense of identity, or the pairing of those 2 houses has been quite powerful? Did you notice anything?
Yeah, so I had like a significant breakup and been in and out of relationships, and they've been quite, I think they've given me the ability to understand myself a little bit more. So from obviously having a breakup, but then going into different situations that have made me understand what I want now from like a relationship. So yeah, definitely.
Nice. Yeah, I find that like when the nodes are in those houses and you get a nodal return or the flip nodal return every 9 and 18 years, that you learn a lot about yourself in relationships during those times, you know? Alex, anything that stands out to you really quick before I start plucking away here?
Yeah, the thing I'm noticing right away is Uranus is squaring your ascendant or opposing your ascendant degree right now. And you will have Jupiter and Uranus conjoin in April, squaring your sun and your Mars.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to look at.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think, you know, if you're working with relationships, Shay, there's this Jupiter Uranus, I don't want to hype it up too much because it's easy to hype up Jupiter and Uranus really, but in a big way. But it speaks to some amount of new, hopeful, expansive way of seeing relationship, the way you are in relationship, your relationship to relationship. All of that would be something that there's like stuff or perspectives you may not be considering right now, or even be kind of on your radar right now, that start to appear around that time and that feel very hopeful and open and expansive. And they, you know, they're jazzed up by Mars too, which is a really interesting one too, which is a really interesting aspect of this as well. Mars and Leo, which is, I don't know, Adam, what do you think? Like adding some prominence to that, you would say, like Mars and Leo dealing with it?
You know, the thing that comes to my mind has to do with the power dynamics in relationships again, but with some kind of connection to family history and maybe specifically one's father. The reason that comes up for me is that when the sun is activated in the 4th house by Uranus from the 7th, it's almost always about breaking the mold in love and relationships through a kind of an adjustment. No, how can I put it? It's like dad is usually a big deal when Mars is in Leo opposite, in the sign of the sun, opposite the sun in the 4th house. It's like, what was dad like? That, let's just say, I didn't even want to go further than that. Is it okay if I just ask you, like, what was your dad like, or what is he like?
My dad, well, he was always like a big sort of character. Everybody knew him around our area. He was just very outgoing. Everybody knew him. He was everybody's kind of favorite person. But at the moment, like, me and my dad haven't spoken for a long time, probably like 10 years now. So even though when I was younger, he was very like outgoing, everybody knew him, our relationship kind of started to disappear a little bit like 10 years ago.
May I ask if it's okay? And if you don't feel like sharing, no big deal, but may I ask, like, was there something that happened, or was there some like feeling of having been hurt, or like what caused the rupture between the two of you?
Yeah, so I'm happy to share. So the rupture was between him and my mom sort of split up, but the way that they split up was from his side. There was a lot that he did on his side that caused hurt, not just to my mom, but to the family. So that kind of divided us. When that happened, it just divided everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So there's probably, I'm sensing that there might have been a feeling of being sort of disillusioned and disappointed by dad's like behavior.
Yes, definitely.
And then were you raised for a time by a single mom?
Yes.
Right.
And I think, well, yeah, raised for a time by my mom, but I feel like she was kind of, when I was growing up, she was kind of the one that took the lead with most things anyway, in general.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some interesting dynamics there. I would say that, when we see like Mars retrograde in Leo opposite the sun, and you say like, my dad was like this man of the town, but he had maybe some moral failings, or he like disappointed me with his behavior and we're estranged. That's the sun opposite Mars, right? That's it right there. And there's when Uranus is hitting the descendant, it's as though when it comes to relationships, the way in which that hurt or that story from the past is somehow playing a role in romantic relationships. And I couldn't say what that is, right? Like, but that it probably has some way of affecting, for example, trust or power dynamics, or there might be an attraction to people who carry similar dualities, like bright, strong, but maybe disappointing and breaking of trust or something. But whatever it is,
feeling of instability too with Uranus too.
Yeah, and like let Uranus hitting that square from the descendant is like, I want to break that whole pattern open, and it's happening as the eclipses have recently come through, right? So that's what I would look at here is like dad karma, and the way that it is maybe, sort of subtly embedded in relational karma, and then trying to break that open and change the trajectory. That's what comes to my mind immediately. Does that resonate at all?
Definitely. I felt what you just said. I think that happened sort of this summer, like recognizing the patterns that I see in other people that are coming into my life, and recognizing sort of my dad's sort of traits in them. So exactly what you've said, that's definitely happened with relationships that have come in more recently. And it just brings me back to those sorts of times. It's making me reflect on, okay, what did happen then, and what am I carrying into my future? So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then the other thing that comes to my mind is like, okay, you've had Uranus on the descendant already. It's there again right now. And when it pulls off the descendant and it squares Sun and Mars again, the story continues. And the good news is that because you've already been through a portion of this transit, this sort of T-square that's happening, you've already done some of the work, it sounds like, right? So it seems to me like it can and should like advance even further in the year ahead, that there's maybe even a deeper freeing up of energy and a forgiving or a releasing of old wounds and so forth with respect to your father. It's also your Saturn return on the IC, right? Remember, we were just talking about the IC as that substantive base of the chart. When Saturn's there, that's Kronos, right? That's the eater of children. That is another image for father at its worst. And this is a nighttime chart where Saturn's out of sect. So there's something around this that I could see. Like if you were married and in a relationship and thinking about getting pregnant, I would be like, oh, this is interesting because it might be about breaking the karma around how you raise kids or how you identify as a parent compared to what mom or dad did or something like that. But if you're not in that position, then I would look at this and say, there is a very substantive change happening in terms of the very basic ancestral karma that has defined your life so far, or has been at the base there as like at its worst, Saturn down there would be like a root rot, right? It'd be like something that needs to be pulled out from the roots. Now, I've seen this kind of transit happen when maybe dad's dad passes, or dad gets sick, or dad blips onto the radar again. There's some healing catharsis, or dad even passes away, or God forbid, right? But the idea could be that there's a really deep loosening of stuck and prohibitive karma that has to do with the ancestral past, or the kind of base of your life in that sense.
No, definitely makes sense. Definitely. And I'm, like I said, I'm already seeing those themes play out. So yeah, we'll see what's to come.
You want to add anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to say, look to Jupiter as a great ally, not only this year, but also in your chart. You have Jupiter in Sagittarius squaring your Saturn. And, that is Jupiter for me always represents bringing things back together, while Uranus represents a sense of freedom. I need the freedom. Jupiter represents a sense of coherence, bringing things back together, an understanding or a new narrative of some kind. And sometimes what I found in my own healing with my own family, my own parents over the years is, as I've broken free more and I've established, who I am more and more within myself and done that inner work, there's a sense where I can come back to an understanding of that relationship, and even a new relationship with my parents that comes back together in a totally new way, because I've gone through so many identity shifts and changes within myself and understanding of who I am. So that might be something to look forward, especially in the spring when Jupiter and Uranus conjoin. But you also have a great ally in your chart during your Saturn return of Jupiter and Sag squaring the Saturn return, which can be helpful.
Yeah. Big freedom with Jupiter-Uranus squaring her sun. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in late April will square the sun in the 4th house. I think Alex is right. There's a new story that can get told this year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We so appreciate it. And sorry we couldn't get to you last time, but I'm glad we got to you today.
That's okay. No, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, Shay.
Stay, feel free to email. Tell us how things go. We'd love to hear from you.
I will. I'll keep you updated.
Right. Take it
Thank
easy.
you.
Bye. That was an awesome, really awesome chart to look at. Really interesting.
It was.
I'm going to pause once more. And Alex, are you good on time? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just checking. I got like 20 more minutes.
All right, cool. I'm going to remind everybody that we are here today doing these readings because we love all of you. And we also hope that we can get your support for our Kickstarter campaign. We have just 16 days left to go, and we still need the support of about 1,200 backers. So we can get there. There's often a late rush of people that support toward the end. We would really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's already donated. You can find the link in the live stream chat, or if you go over to the website, nightlightastrology.com, you can click on the 2024 Kickstarter link, go over, pick up a reward when you pledge. We deeply appreciate your support. Okay. Ariel, do I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Awesome.
Hi, Ariel.
Thanks for being here. Let's see here. I'll make sure I spell your name right. Okay, there we go. What is your date of birth?
August 3rd, 1983, 9:26 p.m. And that's Santa Monica, California.
A Leo from California.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. All right.
Now I live in PA, and it's been rough.
That's quite a shift. Yeah, that's a big shift.
Do you Pisces rising? Does that sound right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, here we go.
Interesting.
Pisces rising. Okay, so on the Pisces rising front, let's take a look and see what we've got here. Gemini moon, the Cancer, Mars in Cancer. Okay.
Pluto squaring Saturn. You're watching like the live mind of an astrologer right now, Ariel. Like,
I love it.
so Pluto is here with it.
Calculating.
Calculating.
Jupiter. Let's see. Okay, where?
Mars.
Take a look. Hold on. Give us just a second.
The end of that Pluto and Capricorn transit was interesting for you, Ariel, because you had the opposition of Mars and then
the square to Pluto.
Square.
And
Pluto,
Saturn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So let's go. Oh, what's Neptune doing? Neptune squaring natal Neptune. I find that those are not like the most eventful. So I'm just going to keep looking around here. You know what? I think it's going to be a Saturn. It's Saturn opposite Venus, and it's Saturn over your ascendant. Saturn opposite Mercury, Venus, and Saturn over your ascendant. To me, those are the biggest themes of the next year. How are you? Let's ask this question for starters, Ariel. Like with Saturn in your first house transiting right now, like how do you feel physically, mentally, emotionally since like last March when Saturn entered Pisces? Have you noticed anything?
Yeah, for the most part, it's been positive, but like literally the day that Saturn moved into Pisces, I had a root canal like scheduled. So there was definitely like a cleaning up of habits and, you know, things like I had been a former smoker who had started vaping, and I was able during that first push through actually finally to drop that as a habit. So it's been primarily, I think, like, yeah, kind of mental cleaning house and those sort of themes.
Yeah. It's funny how when Saturn comes into the first house, it's just like, all right, let's fix your knee, let's fix your back, let's pull your teeth.
Let's get into that.
all the structures and bones of the body.
Yeah.
And then also I always like to say Saturn in the first house gives you your yes through a slow clarifying of all your no's. No, this is who I am, but first I'm not smoking, and first I'm not, yeah. And then slowly something emerges through all of the the kind of negating that Saturn needs to do. And that can feel heavy. And for some people, it's hard not to feel like you're being personally negated by Saturn. Like, here's what's wrong with you. Here's what you have to stop. Here's what you can't do. But over time, the limiting effect with health, body, mind, emotions, mood, I think it's like the pressure of whatever the coal into the diamond. There's a crystallization of wisdom and maturity that's happening when Saturn's rolling through the first house. Now it's going to oppose Mercury and Venus this year. It'll go over the ascendant. I think the ascendant is a critical moment. And let me just see if I can figure out exactly. Let me just check what date that is for you. Hold on, give me just a second. But I think when Saturn comes over the ascendant, you think about one of the critical transitions of the Saturn transit through the first house. When it goes over there, a lot of the most intense transformation will happen, and the sort of crystallizing of the more mature part of yourself that's ready to come forth will often sort of present itself. Now for you, it looks like that moment is going to be about the month of April.
Okay.
So yeah, like I think it's
eclipses.
Yeah, right around the eclipses. It could be tied in. Let me actually see if I can bring this back up and show you. Here we go. So you'll see like here's Saturn kind of right on your ascendant right there, happening right after the April 8th eclipse, I believe it is, which is in Aries in the second house. I wonder if there's also some themes this year of, the developments around business, money, career. Those are kind of loud with the Aries eclipse and the solar eclipse. Also like debts, obligations, soul contracts with other people. Doesn't Saturn opposing Venus in the 8th house, a Venus that was turning retrograde when you were born? I think that would also speak to looking at the relationship between yourself and like key people in your life, and also the balance of power and resources in relationships as like a big part of this transit.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I have felt, and I primarily attribute it to the Neptune square, like a push towards either adding in a very different kind of career trajectory or just like an additional career. Right now, the past 7 years, I've been in a very like business oriented, like it's just business. It's not particularly creative. All my education was in creative backgrounds, humanities and stuff. And then I just got like a job and created a business that's very focused on just like, it's online selling and things like that. And then in the past yearish, got back in love with astrology, which was something that I loved as a teenager.
Nice.
I've been doing Reiki training, and that I'm going to be continuing on with over the next year. So I have plans to do that. So yeah, so that one I kind of felt very like, I was like, oh, okay, that's what this is.
Alex, do you want to add anything for Ariel?
Yeah, I think, if we're staying on the topic of this eclipse, it's interesting. There's sort of like the refining of like coming back to the spiritual pursuits that gave you a lot of joy before. And I wonder around this eclipse if there's a push for, Saturn and Mars coming together right over the ascendant. There's like what else have I given up or sacrificed that I really want to bring back and discipline myself and find discipline around again, or build a discipline around again, that sort of idea. And that, with all that Aries energy really activated, this sense of I can go for it. I can try. I can bring this, myself into this, and it can be a way that I not only prop up myself, my sense of who I truly am. It feels like a structuring that's happening around the time of this eclipse, which I really like for you.
Since it's a Pisces Mars and I have a Cancer Mars, would that like specifically relate? Like, are those trying at that point, or is that off?
They're going into it.
Are they like? Is that because like having Mars in the 5th house for me? That's often feels like either like relationship energy or like creativity. So I'm just wondering whether like, because it's a Pisces Mars, whether that's going to interact, I guess.
So you have the Mars in Cancer was traditionally said to be in its fall, right? So
yeah.
the feeling of, whether something, Mars in Cancer in the 5th could struggle to feel like it is effective in reaching its creative and emotional goals.
Yeah.
And the Mars in the 1st house was Saturn on the ascendant, both trining that Mars by whole sign and Mars eventually by degree, could be about a period where it's like, you can be effective, but here's the sacrifice you have to make.
Okay.
Or you can be effective, but it's going to require this kind of personal fortification of your will, your discipline, your desire to be successful, the overcoming of a feeling of weakness that holds you back. For example, smoking. I'm sure you feel stronger as you get healthier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so those kinds of things might be coming together really nicely to make you feel like you're overcoming some inertia or feeling that you can't always quite perform or succeed at the level that you feel like you could. This would be very nice transit to helping you feel like you can turn a corner with that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
Mars in Cancer often feels like water that's always simmering but can't boil. It's like it has this feeling, that feeling to it. Yeah. And this extra Mars. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that if there's a sideways way to go around, or like, kind of like a back channel way to get something done, that's where the temptation is. But I remember, it was just not that long ago when Mars was in Scorpio, and it was like a very tight trend. Like I woke up, I'm like, I have so much energy to do all the things.
Yeah.
And it was like really, I could feel that support from the little bit stronger Mars. And I have, some Mars Scorpio people in my family. And I find that like, even just when I'm with them, I'm much more motivated to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Ariel, thank you so much for coming on today. We hope we could give you a few good nuggets.
That was really helpful.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. We hope you have a great rest of your year.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Bye, Ariel.
All right, thank you so much. That was a really interesting. I mean, looking at Saturn, I was thinking it was the first time we saw a Saturn transit. A lot of Pluto and Uranus and stuff like that. We're gonna bring on one last person, and that's Iris today. Hi, Iris. How are you?
Hi, Iris.
Good. How are you?
Is that a Buddhist prayer flag? Is that what I see?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wind pictures. I always love them in Nepali. They call wind pictures.
Yeah, just something to brighten up my office a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. That's nice. Iris, what's your date of birth?
January 8th, 1989.
And the time?
1:30 p.m.
And the place?
Chicago, Illinois.
All right. I have Gemini rising. Does that sound right?
That's right.
All right. Awesome.
I can think of one transit right out of the gate.
I know.
Let's talk about the first house.
Yes. Yeah. Alex, go for it.
I was thinking Jupiter and May entering your first house, which is just fantastic. I mean, I think that feels like
the big circle just made an appearance.
For Jupiter. Yay! That was like the extra big circle. I gotta say, it was very Oh, okay. Well, we can work with this. But you're going to be having your Jupiter return, followed by Jupiter moving right into Gemini, which I think, Jupiter classically said to be in its exile in Gemini, but there's also there's a real feeling of like abundant, transformational, incredible influx of ideas and information, and especially relating to your identity, your body, how you feel you are within yourself. I think Jupiter in Gemini really does feel like the sail that suddenly has a huge amount of wind in it, and it will be trining Pluto, which will be conjunct your moon in your 9th house, which will be really interesting. I mean, that also looks at like a deep dive and into the ways that you're making sense of the world, the systems of information that you use to make sense of the world, and how those relate to your identity in some way as Jupiter moves in there, how it relates to the way you either feel you are in the world or you feel others perceive you. That's a power-packed, Pluto will move in there in January, but then you also get Jupiter in May. That's a beautiful cerebral opening of ideas and different ways of conceptualizing the world. Really beautiful.
Yeah, I like Pluto on the moon for somehow bringing a kind of, like a transformational impulse into the realm of your beliefs, religious and spiritual, philosophical, learning, studying things, traveling abroad, and maybe also representing a shift of mind and body, because the moon does connect to our bodies. Philosophical changes that have an impact on your health or your body. The other thing is that Pluto on the moon will often bring up family karma. Even if it's in the 9th house, there may be some overlap between transformation occurring around family members or your relationships with family members and the orientation of the orientation of your beliefs. So as you change and shift your view of the world, it can have a transformative effect on your family dynamics, the family constellation, whether that's your family or your family of origin, if you have your own kids or, whatever. Jupiter entering the 1st house, trining Pluto on the moon in that house, to me suggests new ideas that require a transformation of mind and body, because the 1st house also represents the body like the moon does. And maybe with some connection to family karma or family history. These are really, really big transits. And for the most part, with the trine, they look very supportive. But do expect with Pluto on the moon that the shadows of upbringing, of ancestry, of family, of bodily health, and things like community, family or community religiously or intellectually, who do you consider to be like family or of like-minded people? Those will also be things that will come up.
Wow. Thank you. It's definitely interesting because I suffer from chronic illness. So be interesting to see how this exploration might of my beliefs might help with me finding a pathway to health. So that would be amazing.
It wouldn't be surprising with Jupiter in the first trining Pluto on the moon if there were new therapies or ideas or like approaches or ways of thinking or holding the sickness that had transformational potency to them. I mean, I obviously I don't know, but that would be the great potential I could see here.
Cool. Thank you so
Iris,
much.
also Jupiter moving will by the end of June, I was just checking, will move to square your nodal axis and will be applying to your south node. That would reinforce what Adam was saying about family karma, I think, in a big way. But there's some of the information that's coming up could feel new information that feels like it can free up or in some way feel like there's more movement along the life path. That it feels like if there was something that was stuck, there's something sometimes with Jupiter there that there's like I see why that's there, and there's something that can move along that, especially when Gemini through new information, new ideas coming in around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Iris, thank you so much for being here today. I hope this was helpful for you.
Very much so. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You bet. Let us know how
Iris.
things go, and have a great rest of your year.
You too.
Take good care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, we have reached the end of our live stream for today. Alex, thanks so much for being here and helping me. This was really fun.
It's always fun, man.
I know. Whitney says, I just love how the pen is like an additional character in Adam's YouTubes. Adam, Alex, and the Epic Pen, here to lead us through their astrological wisdom.
We're like a team of Jedi Knights that are taking you through
That's right.
The end of your transits.
Endless references to the Lord of the Rings. You know.
I got the Ring of Power in there today. I'm pretty proud of myself. That was pretty good.
You an episode. There's not an episode that can go by without us mentioning Lord of the Rings. So if you guys haven't already, don't forget, Kickstarter link is in the live stream chat. It is at the description, pinned to the top of the video once it's posted after the live stream is over. It's in the description of the video. You can go to the website, nightlightastrology.com, and click on the link to the Kickstarter. We still need 1,200 beautiful souls to help us reach our goal by the end of the year. We thank you so much to the 562 that have already pitched in. We really appreciate you guys. Pick up a reward when you donate. Pick up Alex and I doing your horoscope for the entirety of 2024. Those are great videos that we're almost done making now. So we'll have those ready the first week of January after the pledges are taken. Your pledge is taken on January 1st, by the way. So you can pledge now, and nothing charges your credit card until January 1st if we have reached our goal. So that's it for today. We will see you guys again soon. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take it easy.
Hi, everybody.